Sea of Thieves Hourglass is a challenging mode to start fresh with, and there's lots of different things to consider each and every single match. This guide breaks down a regular Hourglass match into 6 stages and gives you a few different ways of playing and strategies for each stage. Whether you're a brand new player or an Hourglass veteran, this guide will give you the basics to learn or remember how an Hourglass match works and what to prioritise in certain situations. This is a guide for the most common way I've seen matches played out, but every game is different, so it's not one size fits all. Keeping that in mind, enjoy the video, and I'll have the 6 stages timestamped in the description if there is any one particular aspect you need help with. Generally in a match of solo Hourglass, both ships will turn slightly to the right and raise their sails about 2/3 of the way up, then give a soft turn back to the left to start a spiral. A lot of people generally also angle their sails to the right because statistically this is the best for wind and keeps them out of the way of the player. If you are going to set your sails to the right, make sure to do so before diving or while underwater in the queue to save you valuable time at the start of the match. Be sure that when turning the wheel throughout the entire match, you are only doing small turns in case the wheel is damaged. The wheel is one of your top priorities throughout the entirety of the match, and I'll explain why throughout the video. Your main crate you get at the start of the match is also very important. I like to sort it while queued so I can spam picking up supplies without having to worry if I'm picking up junk I don't need. My preference is to have it here so I can access it when I'm at the cannon, or I can still access it when I'm trying to stay out of the way of cannon line, which often gets hit quite a lot. Once you have your ship in its starting position, it's time to jump on the cannon and start firing off your opening broad. The first few cannons of the match can be tricky and can take time to learn what distances require different height cannons, but the main thing to remember is watching where your cannons go and working off of that. For example, if I'm shooting cannons and they're going high, aim lower. Shooting lower, aim higher. Vice versa, left and right. A big help with this is following the smoke trails after you fire a cannonball. A little goes a long way with moving the cannons, so don't feel the need to over-adjust and send cannons flying miles away from the enemy ship. Once you do start hitting, stick very close to that sweet spot, and now make very small micro adjustments, up, down, left or right, and remember the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Aiming for the enemy cannon is good. Almost all hits on the mast, wheel or front part of the ship are winners in this phase of the game. You don't want to be only hitting the same spot, however. You want to be spreading to increase pressure. 2 more tips that help a lot more than you think with your cannons are safe loading. After loading and shooting a few cannons, the cannons take on a feature or bug that lets you load them while not being on them and doing other things like eating or reloading, which is a game changer for dodging 1-balls and retaining health while using the cannons. It also just gives you a better view of what's going on. And your cannon flare. A big flashy cannon flare is basically pay to lose in Hourglass, as it blocks a large portion of the screen for a hot second every time the cannon is fired. Stick to something simple like default or my favourite, the cutthroat cannon flare, and turn your particles to cursed for a much smoother cannon shooting experience. Also turn off your screen shake. Once the 2 ships start getting a bit closer, it is likely that chain shots will start to fly, and if handled incorrectly, this can be the make or break of a game. The same principles of adjusting your cannon shots from before also apply with chain shots, except you can also aim a little bit higher. A lot of this part of the match is very situational and all depends on what else is happening with the enemy ship and your own, so follow along carefully. If you manage to chop the opponent's mast first, they're probably going to try and chop yours back to try and prevent you from circling them. Depending on what their pressure is like, they'll either let it fall or catch it, and they'll either repair it and try to get moving again or not. If they do repair it and keep going, that likely means they don't have enough pressure. So try and chop them again, but make sure you hit other important parts of the ship such as the wheel or lower hulls, so they don't have time to keep repairing it. Now in reverse, if you get chopped first, if water pressure is low and the wheel is repaired and in good position, you can catch the mast and either try and repair it or try and chop the enemy back. The wheel and water are your top priority here. It is okay to let your mast fall if you have to prioritise the ship's turn to match the enemy ship circling you and go for the chop on them. Or if they're already chopped and you need to straighten the wheel to keep your ships side by side. Most of the time, keeping all this in mind will result in what's called double D-masted part of a match, or double D'd, where both ships have their masts down opposite each other. A key element of this part of the game is staying on top of your angle. Just as much in this stage as any, it is important to stay on top of your angle. Ships tend to slowly drift out of cannon angle, so minor wheel adjustments often need to be made to keep your ships parallel, such as a soft left or right turn, which can be straightened once the desired angle is reached. You also want to make sure you're staying on top of your reps. Keeping up with your repairs is also crucial in this stage. If you're spending too much time cannoning and fiddling with the wheel, your holes will build up and leave you time for nothing other than bucketing. This is where it's important to find a good balance of keeping up pressure as well as keeping your own pressure low. A good way to help with this is by focusing on priority reps. Priority reps mean focusing on repairing the holes that are least likely to get hit again. Right sides and outside to in is often the case here, as they're at either ends of the ship and are often harder to hit than the middle of the boat, or what we call the main two holes. Once again, this works in reverse, so you want to make sure you're spreading your cannons and hitting these front and back holes on your opponent's ship, giving them more pressure and less time to focus on spreading you back. Angle, pressure and reps are the big three you have to work around and multitask here. Now it's time to try and get there. After you've repaired any priority holes and gotten what you believe is a good spread against your opponent, which you can tell by how long they're spending on the cannon before going down to bucket and rep, this means you have the pressure advantage and can start looking to repair your final holes, which should be the main two, and prepare to spread and send. Sending low into the water and trying to time or juke your way up the opposing ladder is your safest option. However, if you are more experienced, you can try and aim for a deck shot, which cuts out the ladder battle completely. This is always risky, however. Once you do send, try and get a scope on their pressure. If there is loud creaking coming from their ship, and you can hear and see them still bucketing, you can try and climb with some ladder jukes, or time it when they're grabbing a bucket to get up. Once up, you have a few things you can do, such as turning their wheel to put their ship into a spin, dropping their anchor to try and limit their angle, and going for the kill. Blunderbombs are your best friends while boarding. They can be thrown at the enemy from the water, doing damage so they have to eat and you can climb, or if you do board, standing towards the front of the boat and throwing them into the pocket, doing considerable damage and making it harder for the opponent to bucket in the meantime. On the receiving end of a board attempt, depending on what your pressure is like, there are different styles and positions to guard from. If pressure is low, up by the helm is a good spot to guard, as it gives you a clear line of sight to shoot your blunder down the ladder, knocking the enemy off and setting up a ski, or buying you more time. If your pressure is a bit higher, tucked into the cannonball barrel is a safer spot that allows you to blunder them as they are coming off the ladder or sitting at the top, buying time or setting up a side skeet, which can be a little bit harder to hit. Also letting you get buckets in between guarding. Don't have a crazy ego. A lot of Hourglass can just be chance. One balls or lucky shots do happen and have just as big an impact on the match as anything else. If you do lose, you're in the same boat as everyone that's ever played Hourglass, so don't think of it that you're bad at the game, but instead think what went wrong and how you could avoid it again in the future. Sea of Thieves has a good habit of making people extremely angry, so try to keep calm and remember that everyone makes mistakes. Try to learn to be able to spot mistakes from your opponent and how you can capitalize on that. Even winning should be looked at in the mindset of what could I have done better to start seeing some real improvement. This is just a rough guide of basic common Hourglass gameplay and technique. Hourglass is a big game with lots of different strategies and techniques, so don't treat this guide as what you should do every single time. If there are any other styles of play or techniques you want me to cover, let me know in the comment section, perhaps we can make a part 2 video. However, this video took crazy time and effort to make, so if you do want to watch helpful Hourglass gameplay or want more guides in future, liking and subscribing is greatly appreciated. Thank you.